Welcome into the DNVR Avalanche podcast presented by DraftKings Sportsbook. Use code DNVR when you sign up for a new account to get amazing odds boosts every single day. I'm your host, Rudo, joined by AJ and Jesse back from Las Vegas. Seems like it was a fun time out there, all of the nonsense going on around the All-Star game. So let's just start there. How was your trip to Vegas?
It was good, man. It was chilly for Vegas, but when I was on my way to the airport, it was -10. And when I landed in Vegas, it was, I think, like 38 degrees. So felt nice and balmy. Take that all day. But no, dude, yeah, just a bit. But no, dude, honestly, man, it was a ton of fun. I know people can kind of rag on the All-Star game a bit in terms of like a media standpoint. And just the game itself. But no, it was a ton of fun to be there. You know, you do kind of stop when you're standing in that media room on Friday, the day of the skills competition. There's some pretty cool people you're sharing that room with. But no, dude, it was a ton of fun, and yeah, we'll talk about a little bit more of the specifics here. But it was great, awesome experience to be part of. I think they should do the All-Star game in Vegas every year.
It certainly inspired some fun things, at least. So you covered it. Were you in the building? Did they just show the like fountain thing and the outdoor thing on the Jumbotron or what?
Yep. So it was actually pre-recorded the night before. The two outdoor events were done the night before. I actually had a buddy who was out there who was staying at the Cosmo, and he had a balcony that overlooked the fountain. So there was one night we were out there hanging out on his balcony and, you know, drinking and stuff. And we thought we were watching them test it. Test the lights and stuff. Turns out we were watching them actually do the event, and you know, I didn't realize it at the time. But yeah, so the outdoor events were pre-recorded, and they just showed them in the arena, exactly what you just said on the big board.
All right,
but yeah, I thought it was cool. I liked the outdoor events. I don't know if you guys talked about this on the show Saturday. What did you guys think of the outdoor stuff?
They were cool. I liked them.
Yeah.
There were some tweaks that need to be made, especially with like the 21 thing where you just had a hard time seeing what was happening with the puck.
Yeah.
And you're like the puck would go through one of the cards and you were like,
yeah, I was talking to my sister about it yesterday and she was like, I don't know why they didn't use like a video or like a board that like lit up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah, that seems way better.
There are a lot of adjustments that could be made, but a good base.
They went really low tech, and it showed.
Yeah.
And then like the one thing they invested in was these weird pucks that light up that they have to like activate.
They have to slam them so hard to get them to turn
on the fountain thing. I don't remember which one of them it was, but one of them couldn't get one of the pucks to light up. So after hitting it like 3 times, he discarded it and moved on.
Moved to the next one. Yeah. No, the pucks they said were player tracking. You know, tracking. They were all kinds of smart pucks and stuff like that. But yeah, I thought it was weird. I thought they were just using those for the one in the fountain to like make them easier to see. But then, they're lighting up pucks for hardest shot and stuff like that. And I was like, oh.
Yeah.
But the other part of it too, I did talk to someone from the NHL out there who said that part of the issue with the outdoor stuff, you know, you mentioned it was kind of low tech, was that the intricacies of having that portion of the strip closed, I guess were pretty cumbersome. So my guess is that they had to do something like, what can we set up and break down quickly, make the most of the however many hours it is that they had the strip actually closed. But what I liked it for a V1, right? Like you think that as long as you can kind of dial that stuff in as you go forward, I thought the 2 outdoor events, like you said, they need some tweaks, but I thought it was a good first try.
Yeah. I mean, if that's the big problem, just move it. Doesn't have to be on the strip, right?
Right. Yeah. Well, you know, I mean, you got that huge badass Top Golf right there at MGM. You know, they thought it'd been cool to do stuff off that, but no, honestly, like just talking to some of the guys at Media Day, you know, had a nice little chat with Jared Bednar and stuff like that. Just seemed like everyone was enjoying being in Vegas. lot to do, a lot to, a bunch of guys had family out there, moms, dads, kids, brothers, sisters. There was something to do for everybody. There's good food, all kinds of stuff around. So, they're obviously, they announced this weekend they're taking it to Florida next year, South Florida. But I wouldn't mind seeing it even become like an every other year it's in Vegas type thing. I just thought that it made too much sense for that type of event.
I think it really helps player participation or player willingness to do things when you put it in locations they like.
Yep.
And that sucks for certain cities where it's like it may not be there ever. But I mean, that's fine. I don't like
the NFL is the Pro Bowl in Hawaii every year, right? Like pick a cool location.
They were also in Vegas this weekend, coincidentally. But yeah, Hawaii, Orlando, they do them in destinations.
Yeah, I mean, like put it in a place where players want to go, and that's like it sucks because like I think that they had the last time they had the All-Star game in like Columbus, like it was a huge hit, right? Like, and everybody was like, "Oh my God, Columbus is great," and it gives people an opportunity to really spend some time there and actually dig into it and enjoy themselves there. But like, players don't want to go to Columbus in February.
Well, and especially because the idea is about growing the game, right? That's what All-Star games are supposed to be about: showcasing skill. Really just celebrating the players, and not just the NHL All-Star game, any of the major professional All-Star games. That's what they're supposed to be about. So it's like, you're not necessarily doing this to get like new fans in the seats for the All-Star game. You're doing it to showcase the best players. So to your point, put it somewhere where the best players want to go.
I mean, is there any thought to doing this in like the middle of the summer? I understand there's some complications with like players are in free agency and all of that, but all the players just want to break in the middle of the season. They don't want to go to the All-Star game then. So why not do it in a time where you don't have any hockey for 2 straight months?
Yeah. Or I mean, you could maybe even do it like leading up to training camp. The All-Star game kind of becomes like your first official like kickoff event. Sure. Yeah, I wouldn't hate that. I also like the idea, someone just put in the chat, doing it in a neutral site like Hawaii or something like that. Like, get people stoked about being there. I thought them having, and again, I'm sure you guys went over all this stuff, but like I thought them having Trevor Zegras there was awesome. I would love to see them get more players involved. And again, going back to what we've talked about a bunch, take it to a neutral site, expand those rosters, and just do 2 days of skills.
I'm sure it'd be hard to do logistically, but tie it into the global series, right?
Yeah.
Go have an All-Star game in Finland or something.
Yeah, no, I thought it was awesome. And the one part that I wanted to talk about a bit, I was on the phone with AJ a little bit earlier, and, we're starting to ramp up our trade deadline stuff. We're going to get into it a little bit today. But he asked, he's like, I don't know if you heard anything out there. This is kind of what I heard, people I talked to. And I said, well, I didn't hear anything official, but I tried my darndest to be observant. Just because, when you're out there, you have groups of people that don't normally get together. You have guys that aren't normally talking to each other. And the first thing I told AJ that I thought was just really interesting, and I don't really know how to take it yet. Claude Giroux was in a weird mood all weekend. I've got some audio that we'll probably end up throwing up on the website at some point from Claude Giroux, where again, just he's fielding questions, and it's just real short, kind of simple answers. Didn't look like he kind of really wanted to be there. He was asked a couple times about trade deadline, and he it wasn't even that he like entertained it and gave it. He kind of brushed off with the answer. Like he just brushed the question off. Like someone asked him, have you thought about that at all? Or is this a nice break from having to think about that or something like that? And he goes, there's a lot of hockey left to be played between now and the deadline. That's all I'm going to give you. My focus is on making sure that the Flyers, that we can turn around. We're playing some good hockey now. We weren't playing good hockey for a while, but there's a lot of hockey left to be played. That's all I'm going to say. And, anytime someone pressed him on stuff like that, how things are going with the Flyers, kind of brushed it off. I did ask him about Cale Makar, because he said that his favorite event to watch was Fastest Skater. And I was like, only defenseman participating in fastest skater. What do you think? Again, just trying to get him to talk a little bit about Cale Makar. And he was like, yeah, no, obviously he looks fast out there, but hopefully the guy from our team can beat him. Just had no interest in talking about anything like that. After what, AJ was telling me was a really weird on ice interview. Someone asked him after the game, well, hey, so you won the car. What are you going to do with the car? He goes, I don't know, man. I don't know. And it's just like,
to be fair, I don't think NHL players need random Hondas.
Yeah. They don't need a powder blue Honda Pilot, but
he wins MVP, and they give him this car where he's like, I have no interest in this shit, but I have to pay taxes on it. Thanks, NHL.
and he just looked like, get me on the first flight out of here and away from media. So I again. Think of that what you will. It was just behavior to me that was out of the ordinary for a player like that who's been to the All-Star game that many times, knows what to expect. Just a little odd. The other one that is a little bit more maybe relevant, outside of media day, where it is done in about 20, 25-minute chunks. This group of 8 guys comes in for 20 minutes. They leave. The next group of 8 guys come in. So it was very segmented. I saw Joe Pavelski chumming it up a bunch with Nazem Kadri and Cale Makar. Mostly Kadri. They were talking a lot, laughing, yucking it up, making jokes. Just saw them spending a lot of time around each other. And then Jared Bednar puts Joe Pavelski out there with his 2 Avs for the first half of that 3-on-3. Again, a lot of it is just speculation and us maybe trying to make something out of nothing. But when we've spent all season kind of having that identified as a player that's a potential fit depending on where Dallas is at, a player that makes a lot of sense, you just kind of piece those things together and you say, I don't think that was all coincidental. You know what I mean?
Oh, I feel you. I feel you on that.
Not without going too much down that rabbit hole again. It's just
this podcast has turned into a great example of letting the wish be the father of the thought.
Oh, for sure. Well, and it's not a wish, but like it's just one of those things where you have to put 2 and 2 together a little bit. Nazem Kadri's in on those. He sees what goes around. He talks to people in the organization, and that weekends. I mean, Erik Karlsson. Everyone thought he was Tampa Bay after that All-Star game. He was on the team with Tampa players, and they were talking to him and all kinds of stuff. So it is just one of those things where that even jokingly they gave him a. What, are you gonna come play for us or what? What are you gonna come over here? Are you gonna come play? So it was just interesting. You're 100% right. It's all just me observing stuff, but the Pavelski one was just one where it's like,
look,
couple guys getting some free words in for sure.
All I'm saying is TMZ doesn't have any vowels in it either. So, we're not that far from posting up outside people's houses with cameras, maybe. Who's to say?
We did that once.
I was going to say it's not. We're not very far removed from that. I think is what you mean.
Jesse, what was that, like 6 a.m.?
Yeah, dude, earlier than that.
Yeah.
That was BSN, which I guess doesn't have any vowels either. So it still counts.
Yeah, but it is funny because that is someone asked Claude Giroux, has anybody tried to recruit you? And again, that was another one. He's like, no, that's not happening. That's not happening out here. And it's like, bro, we all know how this stuff goes. We all see where you're at in the standings. But so, I don't doubt that there was a couple words exchanged between Naz and, a couple of those guys out there, given where the Avs are at in the standings and where a couple of those, other guys are.
Let's be honest here. Claude Giroux would be doing himself a disservice.
Yeah.
If he was not using that as an opportunity to be like, okay, I'm gonna chat up a couple of the guys that are here from a couple of organizations that I could realistically see myself going to. where I would waive my no trade clause to go to. And I'm just going to ask him some basic questions about how's life in the city? What's life like in the organization? What are some of the things you like and don't like? What are some areas of comfort? Things like would be doing himself. I mean, everybody knows the score here. Right. Now, ultimately, if he decides he doesn't want to go anywhere and he's just like, don't trade me, then fine.
Right.
But if he doesn't even explore any of it, like, what are you doing, guy?
Yeah. Yeah. So you definitely saw some of that.
It's like going to a job conference, right? Like any job conference, they always happen out in Vegas, and not networking at all.
Right.
Not talking to any of the other managers with wanted signs posted up who are like, hey, we could be interested in your services and we might be willing to pay you more. And then you're just like, oh, I don't have any interest whatsoever in that.
Right. Yeah.
Like,
yeah. So
come on, you should at least like dig into it.
Yeah. So that was definitely what I was paying attention to most. But really, man, it's a cool event to be at in person. Moves a little slow. You don't get, a lot of the commentary in between when they're breaking down and setting up new events and shit. But cool event, a lot to see. And honestly, it was awesome. Kadri really seemed to enjoy himself out there. You could tell that was a moment of, he's talked all year about, nope, I'm trying to stay present. I'm trying to stay in the moment, trying to focus on our next game. And you could tell that he let himself enjoy that weekend a little bit. I think I heard him say it a half dozen times that, I worked for this weekend for a long time in my career, and I really feel like I've earned the right to be here. And I don't think anybody would disagree. So it was nice to see him kind of be able to enjoy that. Same with Bednar. I mean, you guys know I'm a big fan of Bednar as a coach, and it was nice to see him out there. And I know they get it based on where their team is in the standings, but again, that's a guy who I think is underrated around the league in terms of his ability to get everyone pulling the rope in the same direction. So it's nice to see him get some national media attention.
Guys, the wild fan in our chat is not breaking news.
Yeah, that's not real.
Yeah. I feel pretty Confident in saying that Chicago without a GM is not trading Kirby Dach.
Okay.
Come on.
If you haven't believed every single word said on this podcast so far, then you probably need to get to Lightshade and get high. Let's just be real about it.
That might be my afternoon. Given how the last few days have gone for me trying to run errands and be a functioning member of society.
Yeah, you need to go hit it up.
I got boxed in by geese yesterday,
dude. That's a real thing. It's a federal crime to kill them if you run them over. It's a felony for real.
I was just trying to leave Taco John's, which I had never been to before, and the only way I could get them to move was if I threw hash browns at them.
Yeah, dude, they will not move.
They know what's up, man.
The Lightshade off Evans, they're legit. They're awesome people, and they get that discount hooked up.
There you go. 25% off when you use code DNVR. You can also check out with that online to get your order scheduled for pickup at 11 different locations in the Denver metro area. Check them out. Also check out Escape Artists if you need your CBD products, including topical ointments. They have whatever you need, whether it's the light stuff, 1-to-1 ratio, all the way up to the heavy duty 20-to-1. They got you covered for all of your pain needs, or, if you just want to get high and convince yourself that Joe Pavelski is coming to the Avs, it also works for that. So hit up Lightshade today. Go check them out and be sure to use that DNVR code to get 25% off. And then make sure you're keeping your teeth pearly white with Green Mountain Dental Group over in Lakewood, just 15 minutes from downtown. Jesse gave me one of these.
I was there this morning. So I finished the read as it is, and I'm going to give an extra little plug for Green Mountain.
All right. Free Sonicare toothbrush if you get a cleaning, x-ray, and exam with them. So be sure to jump on that. Make sure you're taking care of your teeth at home and at the dentist. And Jesse's going to tell us about his teeth now.
So I hate the dentist so much. I hate it more than like I hate going to the doctor just in general. And the dentist is like my least favorite of that chore. I hate it. I hate the smells. I hate the sounds. I hate the way it feels. So I was very reluctant. I'm always very reluctant to go. I actually had to go back and do a deep cleaning. They get under your gums and all that stuff. I've had them done before. They're not fun. It was awesome. Like they were phenomenal this morning for real. They got me in there really quick. I went in for my regular cleaning x-ray exam last week. They got me in quick. I worked with Christy this morning. She was phenomenal. Didn't feel a thing. The numbing wore off about 30 minutes ago. I was really hoping that if it wasn't worn off, AJ would be on because I was talking like this all morning. But Dr.
Nathan McKinnon.
Yeah, exactly. Dr. Ben is phenomenal. He's come in and talked to abs with me both times I've been in there. All kinds of stuff. And shout out to Grant, his son, who's an avid listener of ours. So I wanted to give a shout out because I know we get a lot of, we talk a lot about how great they are, but this was my first like real experience with them today. And as someone who hates going to the dentist for real, they were fantastic. Highly, highly, highly recommend. They're a little far from me, but it was worth the drive. They will be my dentist going forward. They were fantastic.
How long do you think the Vegas Golden Knights could hold someone out for dental surgery?
We're about
Because not very long if they went to Green Mountain because they'd get them fixed up and fucking back ready to go.
There you go.
But I'm sure they're looking into it.
Yeah, obviously the news of the day, Jack Eichel in full uniform, full practice with the Vegas Golden Knights. And conveniently, Zach Whitecloud out with some bone surgery, has a broken foot.
You're lying. I thought you were being. I thought you were joking
legit.
when you said that earlier.
No, that's very real.
I laughed earlier. Like I let out like a guttural laugh when you said that.
Yeah, not only that, but Alec Martinez's return has been delayed.
Uh-huh. Mm-hmm.
I mean, Zach Whitecloud's only 725, so that doesn't.
It's
not much. Yeah.
It's not nearly enough, but they've already started getting to work.
So yeah, should we dive into this?
Yeah, Matt should be back this week.
Jack Eichel, obviously, we're going to get into the trade or not trade talk in just a little bit. But Jack Eichel, one of the key components, one of the reasons maybe the Avs should be looking to pad themselves out a little bit with the trade, he could return as soon as tomorrow. I guess if he's taking full practice, he could come in there, but obviously Vegas, some work to do on the cap side. $5 from Seahawk really quick. I heard Vegas hired Tanya Harding for $5. Thank you very much.
So right now the reports out of Vegas are that they are targeting February 16th at home for a Jack Eichel return. Now I played this game with AJ earlier. Rudo, do you know off the top of your head who Vegas plays on February 16th at T-Mobile Arena?
Yeah, because we're doing a watch along for this game, so I do know who plays.
So assuming nothing changes,
I would just like to say it's a good thing that the people who are paid to cover the team all got this question correct.
So as of right now, it looks like 9 days from now, Jack Eichel will make his VGK debut at home against the Colorado Avalanche.
Yep.
Assuming everything goes to plan.
So my question is, what are we going to see out of Jack Eichel at the start here? Is it going to be like 70%?
Oh, that's 80? Your question? You're the one with that question?
Yes. I'm the only one who has ever thought of this question, obviously. Okay. No one has deigned to think about this.
It's certainly played no role in the trade talks at all.
None. but we're finally here, right? We finally get to see, is it the bionic cyborg Jack Eichel who's better than ever, or how much is taken out of him at this point for Vegas? And how much does that matter to Vegas? The difference between 80% and 100% Jack Eichel, how big is that?
So here's the part that I think it's been easy for everyone to forget. And then even more so if you follow a team, cover a team that plays out west. Jack Eichel hasn't played in a long time. And I think a lot of people, including myself at times, have forgotten just how good he is. I mean, he's if it's not for Connor McDavid, I mean, he's like a consensus runaway number one overall, elite top tier talent.
Yeah. Imagine him in some of those other draft classes.
Right. It's like not even close.
Like,
but
put him in the 2017 draft and watch him be the hard runaway favorite. I would have flipped fucking tables had the Avs lost that Eichel.
Yeah.
Like, and obviously, like, knowing how it's turned out now, it's totally fine. But
right
at the time, like, yes, like
so, and then again, you take it back a step further. Teams that follow Vegas, or people that follow teams that are closely tied to Vegas, whether it be playoffs or in their division. Jack Eichel starts playing most days at 4:30, 5 o'clock out west. You know what I mean? People are still getting home from work, still getting out. So you catch the highlights of Jack Eichel. It's easy to forget how good he is.
Well, and then in Buffalo,
I was just about to say, then you factor in the team that was around him. And there was a lot of time I thought he looked disinterested out there, and it probably is because who wouldn't be disinterested with that Buffalo team? But I'm expecting that you're going to get probably like a 70 to 75% looking Jack Eichel.
So a Matt Duchene caliber center.
So what I was just about to say was what the reason that context is important is 70% of Jack Eichel is still very, very good. I don't think he has the same elements to his game that McKinnon does, the kind of heavier, can play along the wall, a little bit more physical style. But I mean, like, Vegas brought in a player that is in the tier with Nathan McKinnon. That's what they added. So you're going to
if there's no Connor McDavid, your top centers in the NHL are some combination, assuming health, are some combination of Nathan McKinnon, Leon Draisaitl, Austin Matthews, Jack Eichel, Sebastian Aho.
I'm assuming you're not. Oh, okay. I'll say Crosby. Yeah. In whatever order you like.
Yeah. Like what?
Yeah.
You could make a solid argument for any of those. Sasha Barkov. You could make an argument for any of those guys in whatever order that you would like. And the point is that Eichel is that caliber player.
Yeah. And so even
he's replacing Chandler Stevenson.
Right. So even at 70%, it's going to be pretty good. And for me, the part that, like, I'm not worried about the Avs having to play him on the 16th. I'd imagine they're probably going to shelter his minutes a bit. I don't know if he'll be playing with Stone and Pacioretty. They eat a lot of minutes. They eat a lot of tough minutes. We'll see. But for me, it's going to be playoff Jack Eichel. Once we're back in playoffs, he's been playing games for 2 months now. He's been practicing. He's settled in. He knows what his body is capable of doing. He knows what it's not. He knows how far he can push himself. That's a version of Jack Eichel that's going to give people a lot of fits. Now, what they do down roster could end up kind of making a lot of that irrelevant, depending on how all this cap situation shakes out. But I'm expecting to, see about 70% of what a fully on Jack Eichel would be.
And their lineup construction will be easy. You could make the argument that you just keep. I would not include Bergeron, respectfully.
Anymore.
Yeah. Not anymore. Yeah.
Yeah. But you're talking, you could just keep Chandler Stevenson there.
Yeah.
And that seems like, well, that's kind of a waste, right? And it could be, but you also go and look, Chandler Stevenson's in the top 30 in the NHL in scoring.
Right.
He hasn't embarrassed himself
out of place
at all in that job. He has been very, very solid. No doubt helped by the quality of those line mates, but he's been good. And then you think, okay, well, especially during the regular season where they can work him back into the lineup, like you drop him down onto your third line if you wanted. You keep the misfits together forever, in my opinion. Like,
assuming you don't have to trade one of them.
of course, like because that's the Riley Smith is the obvious trade candidate here between the money and the pending UFA, and they're going to lose him and blah 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 blah. Like, easy. He's the easy guy to start with. Dadonov would be next on that list, which goes back to him being just a total waste of a pickup to begin with. But like that's where you start, right? So they could put him at 3C if they wanted to start with and get him working back into the lineup, and like nice little feather in their cap there. They have that guy just kind of working, and then eventually ramp him up.
Yep. Well, and if he's doing fine in a second or third line and Chandler Stevenson's playing really well, okay, just leave him there until you need to move him. Like, there's nothing wrong with Jack Eichel's going to make whoever look pretty damn good.
Yeah.
And then next season, that's how you go into training camp. So, that's been part of the issue in terms of, if you're the Avs looking at what Vegas does, is Jack Eichel just gives them so many different combinations and possibilities. Again, and I think this is what we're about to start talking about. You've got to get there first with those possibilities intact. And it sounds like this surgery has maybe gone a little too well for Jack Eichel if you're the Vegas Golden Knights. So that's the only thing that I could really see messing them up here, is if they have to do some tearing down to make it work. Because if they can get to the playoffs with some version of this roster intact, he gives them just a crazy amount of flexibility.
Yeah, and like if you have to lose a Riley Smith or especially if you have to lose a Dadonov, like, fine. Well, like they traded away. Do we remember? They traded away Marc-Andre Fleury for nothing.
Oh, yeah, basically nothing. But
they won. The guy won the Vezina, and they literally gave him away for free. They got nothing in return.
Well, hang on. I'm getting word that Riley Smith has to get his wisdom teeth taken out.
Yeah,
and they're extremely, extremely impacted. So.
Yeah,
he may be out for about exactly 3 months. I'm not sure.
It's gonna. They're either going to have to like dance the LTIR dance where they just make it up and make the money work or whatever, or they're gonna have to actually do something.
Well, so here's the problem. They're over the salary cap right now.
Yeah, I mean, like half the teams in the league are.
Well, I know, but I mean, with Jack Eichel on LTIR is my point.
The other problem is that half the teams in the league are utilizing LTIR.
Right.
Just abusing the shit out of it, basically. Yeah.
And like my thing is, it's like, if they had, they've got $2 million in space, but they don't have enough to make it work. Like, they are $3 million over the cap, and Jack Eichel and Alec Martinez are sitting on LTIR.
It's gonna be wild.
The math. Like,
they have work to do.
I know we've all joked and stuff since they made the trade. Not just the three of us, but a lot of people talk about it. But seriously, like, you are looking at this and they're saying, cool, we're eyeing less than 2 weeks before Jack Eichel's back, and you look at that cap situation and like saying they have work to do doesn't even do it justice. Like that they have. Like, they're going to really have to pull something off.
Martinez was supposed to come back like this week, and then
they extended it because Jack Eichel's coming back instead. Yeah.
but that's kind of my point. Leave Alec Martinez out for the year. You're still like $9 million over $7 million over the cap as soon as you activate Jack Eichel.
Yeah, it's not a pretty picture for them for sure. I do think it'll be interesting how they decide to get around it. If they do want to move a player, someone's going to get a deal. I think that much is clear. So whether it's for
And
Riley
like,
Smith or otherwise.
Well, and
yeah,
it's like, do they just straight up just be like, hey, we're just going to give these guys away to teams that
I mean, you almost have
that
to.
worried about? Because now you have to find takers for those guys. Okay, well, who's going to take on Dadonov totally for free? Especially because, and this is why Riley Smith is the ideal candidate, but Dadonov
2 years.
is signed. Yeah, he's signed for next year as well for $5 million.
Yep. It's going to be a tough spot for Vegas, not one I'm envious of, but I do want to talk about the Avs side of this too. So go get yourself a Breck Brew Avalanche Amber Ale, crack one open, and start getting crazy with the trade talks, because it's going to be this way for the next month and a half. Everyone's going to be losing their mind. You might as well have some alcohol in your system while you're doing it. You can get your Breck Brew at your local liquor store. Use the Breck Beer Locator online to find it near you. And when the Avs are playing, if they score 2 in the first period, Breck Beer will buy your beer for you. Make sure you keep your receipt. Take a picture of it. Go to breckbrew.com. When you have score 2 in the first period, send them that picture. Get a beer on Breck Brew. Free beer. It's the only thing better than regular beer. So jump on that with Breck Brew. If you need a little bit of a wake up in the morning, they got Strava Craft coffee for you. Get 25% off online when you use code DNVR25 with them. You can also get 20% off basically for life when you get their subscription service. They got the CBD, they got the coffee, so it'll wake you up. It'll take care of your pain, whether it's migraines, IBS, headaches, joint pain, all that stuff. The CBD is great for. So go check out Strava Craft Coffee too. We have that cold brew down at the DNVR bar, which with the Avs games coming back here shortly, a great place to come catch an Avs game. Come hang out with us down at the bar and enjoy the hockey, enjoy the fun crowds down there. The Avs turnout always likes to get things going a little bit. It's a feisty
group.
Yeah, I didn't think I would enjoy hearing all the oohs and ahs of the bar as they watch a hockey game develop and things happen. So it's a fun little atmosphere. Come on down and have some fun with us. All right. Third period of the DNVR Avalanche podcast. So before we dive into our actual trade deadline coverage later in this week, I do think there's an argument to be made that the Avs may not even really need to make a trade deadline deal. There's a couple of things that I want to hit here. First of all, excuse me, can the Avs win the Stanley Cup as they're currently constructed? I think most people would answer yes to that, but the question you're trying to answer is, will the Avs win the Stanley Cup as they're currently constructed? If you answer yes to that, you're done, right? You don't have to make any moves. Excuse me again.
I was like,
obviously that question's pretty impossible to answer.
What's next?
Without being able to travel back in time or forward in time. So hard to get there, but
it's just it's all about increasing your statistical probability, right?
Sure.
If you can get a Claude Giroux and you only have to give up a minor player off your roster and then some picks and prospects, your chances this year go from, I don't know, if they go from 12% to 16%, is that worth it? Because that's what that's one move, and if that one move increases your odds by 4%, that's an enormous jump.
Right. Yeah, it's so interesting, because this is another conversation I was having out this weekend, talking a lot about this stuff. About, do you make moves? Do you not make moves? At what point do you draw the line and say, well, I have to protect for our future? And at what point do you say, nope, we're going for it? The goal of this league is to win it. Right. The goal of this league is to win a championship, and we're trying to win a championship. So what do you do? Where do you go? How do you balance it? And like, it's another thing that's kind of easy to overlook. 31 teams this year won't win the Stanley Cup. It is very difficult to do.
Yeah, and I would just like to say that some of the entitlement that has taken hold of the Avalanche fan base should probably just let's take it down a notch, guys.
Right. And it's very difficult to do. So AJ, I think you make a great point there that if you're taking your chances from 12 to 17, that's a massive jump in your odds given that one team is going to win. And so if you feel it makes you that much better, yes, I feel like you need to do that. Now, if you're standing back and saying, look, with where we're at, we think we've got a team as constructed that can get over the line, and we all right, so on Twitter, pretty close, but I don't believe it's Twitter. We believe that we have enough to get it done, and we value those picks and prospects more than what we think would be a marginal change in our chances here. Then that's a risk. That's a calculation you have to make. But for me, do I think this Avs team is capable of winning a Stanley Cup as constructed? Yes, absolutely. Do I think that they are demonstrably better with a player like Claude Giroux, Joe Pavelski, and do I think that makes them enough better that you say, yes, you have a better shot of winning a cup? I personally do. I think it's been about 20 years since the Avs have been in this mode, and it's time to be back in championship mode, personally.
Okay. So I think there are two factors here that I want to talk about. One of them is what it is. You can't really change a whole lot of this. An X factor for the Avs side of things is certainly Bowen Byram. He could be back next week. He could be out for the year. We have no idea. But if he returns to the lineup, or if the Avs get a sense of when he might be able to return to the lineup, there's a certain part of them that can kind of use that as their trade deadline acquisition, if that is a thing. The reality is we just don't know. So it's hard to really say anything on the topic, but I think the Avs are, as you said with Pavelski, demonstrably better with Bowen Byram in the lineup.
Yep.
And honestly, you can extend this out. Maybe one of the reasons you're in favor of the Avs looking for a trade in general is to protect against injury and health in general, because look, Avs know as well as anyone, it's hard to stay healthy. Yeah, for sure. So definitely go ahead.
No, I was going to say, so two things here. One, the question in the comments there of how much would you give up picks and prospects for one cup? Take every pick.
Yeah.
And take every prospect.
Literally.
You told me this guarantees you a cup. Take every pick, take every prospect. Don't give a shit. We'll start over.
Take the whole lineup. Take the starting lineup. Win a cup and you're good, right? You don't care.
Yeah. If you're asking them how many moves would you make to guarantee yourself a cup, however many moves you need, because that's the ultimate goal. Now, the other thing that was, again, brought up to me in the conversation I was having this weekend in support of what you're saying a little bit, Rudo, is how much, at what point do you have to step back and say, like look at your recent winners, right? And I think this has something to do with the way that the Avs are playing right now and the way that the season kind of got started and just kind of their general outlook towards it. Look back at the last few winners. None of those have been like, maybe with the exception of Tampa last year on their second cup, none of those teams geared up for it. Those were all really good teams that kind of rode the process and eventually ended up there. You look back at Washington. How many years did they push all their chips to the middle and make all the big moves and win the President's Trophy?
This is what I think is really funny about this conversation about all the chips to the middle, because how many years did they do that? If you go all in, you can't just turn around and do it next year.
Well,
look what Columbus did. That was all in.
Well, yeah,
that was scorched earth. Like, there's no turning back. They gave up everything for the one run, and then that was the end of it. That's what all in looks like. And the reality is that, like Washington, like Pittsburgh, all those other teams, Colorado's in the position where they can go all in.
Yeah.
And they're still going to be, as long as Nathan McKinnon and friends who are under long-term contracts are all coming back. Mikko is signed. Landeskog is signed, Makar is signed, and McKinnon will get signed this summer. I will bet my freaking life on it.
Yeah.
As long as those guys are going to be here, you're going to be a contender for something.
Yeah. And I more of look at all in as like, that's your, what, other people refer to as like a championship window. I kind of look at that as like, this is your all in window where you have, again, for Columbus, it was 1 year. For the Avs, you've got a multi-year window here where like, that's where, in my opinion, you need to say, yep, for those 5 years, they went all in. They did everything they could to win. But again, you look at some of these teams, Tampa, the year they got bounced by Columbus, that was kind of their year where they made the big moves and they cleaned up in the regular season.
They didn't make the big moves that year, though. The next year is when they did. That's when they got Coleman. That's when they got Gaudreau.
Yeah, but those aren't like big, sexy Claude Giroux moves.
But they gave up first-round picks in each of those deals. They gave up 3 first-round picks in those 2 deals because they gave up 2 picks and then their most recent first. Right. Those were huge moves. And those were both guys that ended up on their third line, but that's because they were already sick.
Those were huge assets that they felt they needed to give up to fill in around the fringes, but I don't think anybody referred to those as huge moves like in the league in the moment. Regardless, where I'm going with this is the way that we're watching the Avs play this year, the way they kind of started and the way that they're having the outlook on these games, are we maybe seeing this team understand like they've now gone through a few of these playoff runs and they're getting that, hey, we need to play well, we need to get in, but we need to make sure that we are geared up for the playoffs. And seeing this group play this way and mature the way they are, I think that they should make a move for a player that's going to help them. But Rudo, I think you're totally onto something, that this group may just kind of be feeling this process out for their own or on their own with the group they've got. And we are, I think the 3 of us are all pretty much in agreement that those 3 second-round losses, none of them are built equal. But now you go back even one further year. We're now 5 years into this core's kind of run. They've gone through playoff heartbreak. They've gone through injuries. They've gone through all kinds of shit with the regular season. Maybe they're starting to just kind of piece this together and they don't have to add anybody.
And look, at the end of the day, it's not the players that make the decision on whether they're going to add a player to the roster or not. That's going to be down to Joe Sakic and the front office of the team. So I do think there are probably 2 competing conversations there, whether the players think they can win it as a core or not, and whether you can make the team better. But my other side of this conversation is you always get into this conversation of like keeping up with your neighbor in the NHL, right? Especially when it comes to the trade deadline. And you look at Vegas and you say, well, they went out and got Eichel. Are they a real threat to Colorado? You look in the East Coast side and you say, all right, you're looking at Carolina, you're looking at Florida. Obviously, you can't count Tampa out. None of those teams have really done anything significant, at least in season, when it comes to their acquisitions yet. But when you're comparing to these other teams, can the Avs find what they need against them at the trade deadline? Or are you just throwing assets to throw assets?
Well, what do you think you need? That's the real question. And like, let's shelve the Byram conversation, because obviously that's like if you get him back, that changes your conversation on defense completely. Of course. Because if there's no Bowen Byram, you need a top 4 defenseman. You can't run the way that you've been running. You need help there first and foremost. But if Byram is in the conversation and he's back and he's blah 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 blah, then it's different. Because then everything that you do is a luxury, right? Because you're pretty good as is. You don't feel any real needs on this hockey team with Byram in the lineup. I would agree with that. Because like I see there's literally a guy in my Twitter mentions right now fighting with himself because nobody's responding to him. But having the conversation about how Colorado's depth is providing nothing. And yeah, and I would just like to say, okay, who do we say is Colorado's bottom 6?
Yeah, I mean, if you're including Alex Newhook in that conversation, which with the healthy Avs you
yes.
are, he's providing plenty.
Okay, so because I made up the list, I've got Logan O'Connor, JT Compher, Alex Newhook, Nicholas Aube-Kubel, and Tyson Jost as 5 of your bottom 6 guys that are like set and forget.
Yep.
If you're healthy, those guys are in the lineup.
Yep.
The last guy, Darren Helm, Mikhail Maltsev, whatever, right? That guy, you're not getting anything out of. You got 6 points in 32 games out of Darren Helm. Most of those were because of Logan O'Connor doing dope shit. And Maltsev has been cheated out of like 4 points at this point. But those 5 guys, just right now, when you think of bottom 6 production, what do you guys think of as like, that's an acceptable number? Not even talking the difference between third and fourth line. Just say a bottom 6 guy. Kind of what kind of point pace, what kind of point production are you looking for from those guys?
25.
Okay. I mean, that's on like the lower end of what I would say is acceptable for bottom 6. But
for a third liner, you're probably looking for closer to 35, right? But for a fourth liner,
I was going to say, if you're talking third and fourth line guys, I think you'd like to see all of them fall in a range from 15 to 30, 35, depending on, which type of role player you're talking about.
Okay. So you've got 15 to 30-ish. Rudo's right in the 30 range. Chat has one of our chat has 20 to 30. Yep. So those 5 guys that I mentioned, any idea what their point paces are? I'm just going to tell you because I already did it.
Yeah, I
know Newhook's is like 40. So
Logan O'Connor right now, 31. These are the point paces that they're currently on. 31. JT Compher is at 41. Alex Newhook's at 38. Nicholas Aube-Kubel in Colorado. I took away the 7 Philly games.
Sure.
In Colorado is at 33. And Tyson Jost is at 22. So Tyson Jost being by far the lowest at 22.
Yeah.
And now none of those guys are going to play all games, so they probably won't hit the Logan
82 game mark or whatever.
Those guys probably won't hit those actual numbers. Jost at 22 would seem to be the likeliest. But you're talking about that's what their point paces are right now. So the idea that they've gotten nothing out of their bottom 6 is
saying they've gotten nothing out of their bottom 6. First of all, it's just wrong on Newhook in general, I think. But it's being a hostage of the moment where we've seen over these last handful of games, all of the Avs bottom 6 scoring has dried up for a little bit. But when you look at the season as a whole, you forget that for the first 10 games of the year, JT Compher was scoring at will. People have already forgotten the month of December where Logan O'Connor could do no wrong on the offensive side. And they're bottom 6 players because they can't do that consistently. So it's going to come and go across the course of a regular season.
That's what makes them bottom 6 players.
Right. I was going to say that's the other thing that people forget. And I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that hockey is unique in this sense that in most other sports, what you would, technically be considered like fourth string, they don't play if ever, you know what I mean? Like maybe in an NBA game, there's a massive blowout. And in the last 5 minutes of the fourth quarter, they'll let somebody
clear the bench.
Right. Yeah. But like in the NFL, if you're getting down to guys that are third and fourth on your depth chart, they're meaningless almost, right? You're just trying to get them through a game without getting hurt. But you're the fourth center on your depth chart in the NHL has to take 10 minutes a night.
Penalties for you,
right.
probably.
Killing penalties and stuff. They have roles. That's why you hear the term role player in the NHL more than any other sport. Third and fourth line guys aren't, I saw someone put in the chat that they expect bottom 6 guys to be around 40 points. Sure.
Yeah, if you're the 80s Oilers.
Right. 40 points as an NHLer. If you are doing that consistently, you are not a bottom 6 player. You are a, middle 6 at worst, second line, third line, bounce up and down. On a team like Arizona, you're playing on the top line. Like for real. Yeah. That's what a consistent 40-point, 45-point guy is in the NHL. So it's just that is something to keep in mind, that there is context to these players. And it's amazing that you have fans coming over from other sports because the NHL product is that good. But I do just think that there is sometimes, well, they're in the lineup, they should be getting 40 points. Yeah, but he's the fourth best guy at his position on this roster. And that's a position he was assigned. That's not even his regular position. You know what I mean? Like Curtis McDermott's played his whole life on defense. Yeah, he's playing on the left wing. That doesn't mean he's a legitimate bottom six left wing NHLer. There's context to all of that.
For sure.
We got a Flyers fan in the chat saying we have a Flyers fan criticizing goaltending from around the league, which is the first thing.
Why would we ever listen to you? You don't know anything about goaltending. You haven't seen it in 25 years.
Also, you clearly haven't watched the Avs for the last 3 weeks if you think they need goaltending.
3 weeks? It's more like 6, dude. It's basically since Frankie came back, they've been fine.
True, but in the last 3 weeks, they've been borderline elite in the goaltending.
I mean, they took it up a notch. So I would also like to add on to this depth conversation that one of the things that gets lost in this just general focus on scoring is that the Avs have a second first line on defense.
Yeah.
And right now, point paces for their top 3 defensemen. Cale Makar's at 90. Devon Taves is at 79. Sam Girard is the bum at 50.
Oh, what a weird world it is that your third best scoring defenseman is on 50-point pace. Not bad.
How many times have we talked about that defense being the X factor for the Avs? You talk about them, they're not getting any depth scoring. Defense is a different type of depth. Scoring. Yeah.
Well, and I saw someone in chat earlier say, maybe they're scoring, but it's about what they give back too. I know it's a bad stat, but Devon Taves is the plus-minus leader in the NHL, so he's not giving back a whole lot.
Yeah, it's not a perfect stat, but again, it's with context. It's like, and also your bottom lines, your bottom 2 lines are meant to be, obviously when you have teams like the Avs that are, as kind of stacked from a skill standpoint as they are, you can play guys like Nazem Kadri and Alex Newhook on the PK, but like those bottom 6 guys, those are meant to be kind of like your shutdown guys. So it's not like you're rolling them out there and just getting their heads kicked in every single night. Some nights they do. If you're on the road, you get some bad matchups. Yeah, sometimes it doesn't go great, but those bottom 2 lines for the Avs, it's not like they are getting caved every single night.
I don't even think we've really, especially since Helm has left the lineup, I don't think we've seen them even lose that badly when it comes to possession battles over recent history. So
yeah,
there are nights where things don't go your way, but for the most part, they're more than holding their own when it comes to that type of thing. I think you could make an argument recently that there's been some lack of finish, but on the whole of the season, they've been fine. They're just in a little bit of a lull.
Again, the guy that everybody cites, they just haven't been able to make up that depth since Donskoy left. Dude doesn't have a goal this year.
Yeah, he does.
Now he's got one now.
No, shut up.
Right before the All-Star game, yeah.
Oh, damn. All right, that guy's got a goal this year. Now, I wouldn't have an issue with them bringing him back, but that's not the point. But it's just like, everyone wants to talk about the fact that, they lost, so much depth in Donskoy and Saad and blah, 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 blah. But it's like, it's not like those guys are necessarily lighting the world on fire either. So
it's, I think part of the thing that people forget is those guys aren't even really depth. Those guys were regular second line players for this hockey team, and the gear you're getting out of Kadri, the play you're getting out of Nichushkin on your second line has pretty much entirely replaced that.
Yeah.
So, and everybody's favorite target of ire these days is Andrei Burakovsky, and he has 35 points in 42 games. And he's on pace for just shy of a 30-goal season.
Let's go. Let's get him a couple extra. I'll be 2 or 3 years late, but I would just love to check that box.
So would he going into a free agency this summer.
Yeah.
So depending on where you're drawing the line of depth, obviously Kadri is in the freaking
So
points
all of this to
conversation,
say
but
they're good.
they're good.
There's room for improvement.
What's Nathan McKinnon's point pace for this season? Just if you have it in front of you.
I don't, but give me 1 second. I'll get it for you.
Around 100, if not more, I would think. But
113.
Yeah, what a down year for McKinnon, Don. 113 point pace. What are they even paying that guy
assists.
for?
You know who's not getting talked about at all and is on a 104 point pace right now is Gabe Landeskog.
Sheesh. So the Avs don't really have a lack of scoring, I think, is the conclusion that we're coming to.
They have an entire upper shelf right now of elite scorers at the top. And then you have solid depth. And then you have an elite defense, both offense and defense, honestly. So like they give you great at the top. You get great two-way play out of those guys. You're not looking at any one of them going, well, he's a one-way player. They all give you quality two-way play.
Yeah. And honestly, this is more of a thought experiment than anything. And it's just an interesting look at the Avs to say maybe they don't need to make a move. But I think when it comes down to it, all three of us would say, one, they're definitely gonna make a move. And two, they probably should.
Yeah, it's you can never be too good, right? I think if you're striking out on, as we get closer to trade deadline, if a lot of the guys that you're targeting are either getting re-signed, not waiving, no move clauses, going somewhere else, I think the Avs don't need to panic overpay. You know what I mean? I don't think they have to add someone. But if you're trying to do this, I don't necessarily even want to say right. Similar to what AJ said earlier about Claude Giroux in terms of himself, if you're Joe Sakic, you are doing yourself, your team, your fan base a massive disservice if you aren't trying to upgrade this team. If you're not trying to turn JT Compher into Claude Giroux, you're doing a disservice.
Okay, so let me ask you because I think I've asked this before, but it's going to continue to be part of our conversation. Where's the line?
And this is where I think I'll differ with you guys, because for me, you're trying to win a championship. This, with the cap situation you've got coming up in a couple of years, you are going to be able to keep a very competitive team, but I just don't know if you'll be able to make quite the play that you will this year. So my line is probably further than your guys's. For me, I'm kind of designating one prospect. This is the one guy that we aren't moving. For me, it's probably Justin Barron. I don't see Alex Newhook as a
Let's assume that Newhook anymore. And Byram are no longer part of this.
Yeah, I don't consider them prospects. I think you tap one prospect, and for me, I think everything else is up for discussion.
Anything short of Newhook, Byram, and 5 of the guys in the top 6, I'm at least listening to the conversation.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's where I'm at. Honestly, it's if you truly believe, and again, if you're talking about a Pavelski, a Giroux, a player that you really think moves the needle for you, then again, maybe you tap one guy that you say, this is a prospect that we don't want to give up every defensive prospect.
What if you could keep that prospect by giving up a guy like Burakovsky? Let's stay on Giroux, since that's just kind of the crux of our conversation today. And this dude in the chat's kind of losing his mind about it, so it's kind of fun.
So the conversation around Burakovsky is pretty easy for me. Do you realistically think you can bring him back next year?
Do you realistically want to bring him back?
Well, and sure, either way. If the answer to that isn't an emphatic yes, then you should be looking at getting a player. If you think Claude Giroux makes the Avs better than Burakovsky does, why aren't you investigating that? And now it's going to depend. If they want Burakovsky in 3 firsts, obviously not going to happen. But
yeah, I mean, if they want 3 firsts with anything, they can lick my taint.
that's
not
what I'm
going to
saying.
happen, like fuck off.
In the other conversations, it's like, oh, if they want Burakovsky 1-for-1, of course you do that. But so it's going to come down to
Well, sure, but I'm
what the
saying
other pieces
like
are.
if you could keep Justin Barron out of the conversation and deal Burakovsky in a first instead, would that be a route that you would entertain instead of adding Giroux to Burakovsky?
Would I entertain it? Yes, but for me, you are all about how much can I upgrade 2022's roster. And as nice as it would be to hold on to, whoever the prospect, pick one, whoever your favorite prospect.
Yeah, totally.
Pick them.
We're using Barron because he's like the closest and he's like a premium position, and it's
to be honest, again, if it's Andre Burakovsky in a third for Giroux, then yeah, sure, because I still think that makes you better, but it's just not moving the needle in the same way that you're trying to. You know what I mean? To truly make yourself that juggernaut that's on par with Vegas and having the big line and then the depth. You're making a trade-off with a smaller margin of upgrade, in my opinion. So I'd listen, sure. But I would absolutely be pushing to move the prospects. And then once you move them, you just hope that they don't hit the ceiling that you were hoping for before.
It's easy, right? Like the aggressive roster piece that the Ab side is going to be pushing is probably JT Compher, just from the money side of things, right?
I mean, there has to be, no matter what they do, matter what, if they bring any kind of meaningful money in, money has to go out the other way. Yeah. And that's the only reason that we throw Tyson Jost and JT Compher into these conversations, right? Yep. Like it's because money has to go out, and that's the balance of it.
Yeah, here, can you get Billy's other comment up there? Because I think this is a really important point and something that I know we talk a lot about on this show about Burakovsky's shot, but this is something where this is why I'm still in on Phil Kessel, where I know a lot of other people have really cooled on the idea of him coming here. It's because it is so hard to find players like Burakovsky and players like Kessel that have that ability to change a game purely with their shot. They don't need to be playing, to be honest with you, particularly well. They just need to be in the right area.
That's the biggest thing where you look at how is it that Vegas keeps choking at the finish line? How is it that they've lost to Dallas and Montreal in conference finals in back-to-back years? And it's like strong defensive teams that want to play 2-1, that want to play, we'll take our chances with the bounce here and there.
Yep.
And you have, if you have high-end finishers, you can get through those teams.
Yeah.
And right. Burakovsky is a guy that helps you. It's funny because it doesn't seem like Burakovsky would help you in a tough physical series, just given that he's Charmin Ultra of a hockey player. But his shot is the kind of thing that if you just give him an inch of space, he can just rip one past a goaltender and just be like, Yahtzee, LOL. There's that goal that you aren't having to work so hard for all the time. Yep. And that's where Vegas has missed that center and has really, really hit the wall in the last couple of years, is that those tight checking teams. It's funny because Colorado gets shit on. Oh, tight checking teams shut down the Avs. Do you remember the Dallas series? They scored like 25 goals in that series. Like they were the offense was not their problem in that series. It was a third string goaltender and a penalty kill. They couldn't do shit. But like you look at Vegas, Mark Stone's a great player. But in the postseason, how many goals is that guy scoring for him? You know, where are they? Max Pacioretty is like that guy. Jonathan Marchessault is that guy. Because those are the guys who are beating goaltenders for them, that are getting them past in a series. And Mark Stone's doing great work all over the ice and all of that, but that's just not where that's where him being their best player has hurt them. And that's where Max Pacioretty helps. That's where Jack Eichel's going to help a ton, right? Is that he does beat goaltenders. And that's where Burakovsky, and the reason I'm having this conversation is because I think it's more realistic that they sneak something like that out there and try and solve some of their second line issues, because they could say, hey, we're not going to sign Burakovsky in the offseason. A team like Philly could want him, can get a jump on it, blah, 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 blah. We would rather give the money we were going to give to Burakovsky to Giroux for the next 3 years.
Yeah.
And go, and then in year 4, figure it out from there. And instead of just giving another guy a long-term deal and being like, okay, well, now we have another $6 million player here who's our fifth best forward,
Let's not get too far into this. We do have to talk about this the rest of the week too.
I mean, we have the next 6 weeks to have this conversation, but
easy goals is not something to turn your nose up at fully, and that's I think Billy made a great point with the Burakovsky thing. That it's an interesting point because he's a guy that he can score an easy goal.
Yep. All right. I think we'll wrap it up there. Thank you everyone for watching, listening, however you consume. We will be back tomorrow. We'll see what time the podcast goes on. We might be a little bit flexible tomorrow, but and then Avs pick up playing games again on Thursday, and it's back to the normal schedule, more or less from there. So be sure to like and subscribe here on YouTube, do all that good stuff. Keep your eyes peeled for our the proper start of our trade deadline coverage. This was kind of a little intro lead in, but we got more coming later in the week, so be sure to check in on that. Until the next one, we will talk to you guys later.